I grew up believing family meant unwavering support and trust. As a financial analyst who built my life from scratch, I learned discipline and responsibility while watching my younger brother Trevor coast through life on my parents' dime. I never imagined that my own family would one day ambush me at dinner, defend Trevor's $40,000 debt, try to access my bank accounts, and call me selfish for protecting myself. The worst betrayal wasn't just their demand for money, but discovering my mother had been secretly monitoring my accounts for months. Before I share how my own family tried to raid my savings and how I stood my ground, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and hit subscribe if you've ever had to protect yourself from the people who should have protected you. Growing up in our middle-class neighborhood in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I always felt like the odd one out in my family. My parents, Robert and Diana, never explicitly said it, but their actions made it clear that my younger brother Trevor was the golden child. While they cheered enthusiastically at his mediocre Little League games, they rarely made time to attend my academic competitions or award ceremonies. The financial lessons that shaped my life came not from my parents, but from my grandfather William. He survived the Great Depression and built a modest but secure life through careful planning and saving. "Never spend what you have not earned," he would tell me, while my parents accumulated credit card debt to maintain appearances in our community. By 15, I was working weekends at a local grocery store saving for college and my future. My parents saw this as unnecessary, often telling me to enjoy being young while simultaneously complaining about money problems. Meanwhile, Trevor received allowances well into his high school years, never holding a job but always having the latest gaming systems and designer clothes. When college applications came around, I applied for every scholarship available, eventually piecing together enough financial aid to attend Michigan State. I maintained a 4-point grade average, while working 30 hours weekly between the university library and a local restaurant. I graduated with minimal student loans and immediately found work at a regional financial firm, starting at the bottom, but with a clear vision for my future. Trevor took a dramatically different path. My parents insisted he attend Northeastern University, a private school far beyond what they could reasonably afford. He changed majors 3 times, took 6 years to graduate with a communications degree, and accumulated substantial student debt despite my parents emptying their modest retirement accounts to cover his tuition. After college, our paths diverged even further. I shared a cramped apartment with 2 roommates, drove a 10-year-old Honda, and dedicated myself to building my career while paying off my small student loans. Within 5 years, I had been promoted twice and moved to Chicago for a position as a financial advisor, still living below my means while building a solid investment portfolio. Trevor, meanwhile, moved into a luxury apartment in Boston that our parents co-signed for. He cycled through entry-level jobs, never lasting more than 6 months at any position. His Instagram showcased weekend trips to Miami, expensive restaurants, and shopping sprees at high-end stores. Every few months, my mother would casually mention that they had helped Trevor with a little financial situation without elaborating on details. By my 30th birthday, I had achieved the position of senior financial analyst at one of Chicago's respected firms. I finally allowed myself some modest upgrades, a comfortable 1-bedroom apartment, and a reliable used Audi. My disciplined approach to finances had created a substantial emergency fund, healthy retirement accounts, and a growing investment portfolio. I found satisfaction in helping clients build similar financial security. My relationship with my family had grown increasingly distant. Holiday visits became tense affairs where Trevor would brag about his latest purchases, while my parents beamed with pride. Any mention of my career accomplishments was met with polite but disinterested nods. I had accepted that we simply had different values and limited my visits to twice-yearly obligations. When I received a significant promotion last spring, I celebrated quietly with my close friends in Chicago. I mentioned it briefly during my monthly call with my mother, who responded with her usual, "That's nice, dear." Did I tell you Trevor might be getting a management position? 3 weeks later, I received an unexpected call from my mother on a Wednesday evening. "Broderick, honey, we are having a special family dinner this Saturday, and we really need you to come home," she said, with unusual warmth in her voice. "What is the occasion?" I asked, immediately suspicious of the sudden invitation. "No special occasion. Just family time. Your father and I miss you. And it has been so long since we have all been together," she replied, a slight tension behind her cheerfulness. "I have plans this weekend." I lied, not wanting to make the 4-hour drive for what would inevitably be another uncomfortable family gathering. "Please, Broderick." My mother pressed her voice, taking on that familiar guilt-inducing tone. "It would mean so much to us. We have been talking about some family matters we need to discuss." Something in her voice made me uneasy, but years of conditioning to prioritize family obligations won out. "Fine, I will be there. But I need to head back Sunday morning." "Perfect, I will make your favorite pot roast," she said, sounding relieved. As I pulled into my parents' driveway that Saturday afternoon, I noticed Trevor's car was missing. The house looked the same, as always meticulously maintained, outside while hiding financial turmoil within. My father greeted me with an unusually enthusiastic handshake, and my mother hugged me tightly, commenting on how successful I looked. The conversation during dinner felt staged, with my parents showing uncharacteristic interest in my job and financial strategies. My father, who had never discussed money beyond complaining about bills, suddenly wanted to know about my investment approach and retirement planning. My mother kept mentioning how responsible and smart I had always been with money. "You know, my father," said, refilling his wine glass, "for the third time your mother and I were just saying how proud we are that you have become so financially secure. Not everyone has that knack for money management." I nodded cautiously, waiting for the other shoe to drop. "Thanks. It is just about making consistent choices. And those choices have clearly paid off," my mother added, with a brightness that seemed forced. "I bet you have quite a nest egg built up by now." Before I could respond, the front door opened, and Trevor walked in 45 minutes late. He looked stressed, his typically confident demeanor replaced with visible anxiety. He gave me a quick nod before kissing our mother's cheek. "Sorry I am late," he mumbled. "Traffic was horrible." "It is fine, sweetheart," my mother assured him. "We saved plenty of food for you." The tension in the room escalated as Trevor picked at his food, barely engaging in conversation. When my mother cleared the dinner plates, my father cleared his throat. "Before dessert, we should move to the living room. We have some family matters to discuss." And that was when everything changed. My family settled into the living room with an unmistakable air of rehearsed coordination. My father took his usual recliner while my mother sat beside Trevor on the sofa, her hand resting protectively on his arm. I chose the armchair, opposite them, increasingly certain I had been lured into something unpleasant. "Broderick," my father began in his authoritative tone, "we have a situation that requires family unity. Trevor has run into some financial difficulties, and we need to come together to help him." Trevor stared at the floor, uncharacteristically silent, as my father continued. "The economy has been tough on young people, and despite his hard work, Trevor has accumulated some debt. Nothing he cannot handle with family support." I looked directly at Trevor. "How much debt are we talking about?" My mother jumped in before Trevor could answer. "Well, the total is around $40,000. Mostly credit cards and some car payments that fell behind." I felt my jaw tighten. 40,000. How does someone get $40,000 in credit card debt? Trevor finally looked up, his expression a mix of embarrassment and defiance. "It just happened. Okay. Cost of living is insane, and networking in my industry is expensive. You have to spend money to make impressions on the right people." My father nodded, as if this made perfect sense. "Trevor has been investing in his career. Those business dinners and appropriate attire are necessary expenses." "And what about the 3 vacations he posted on Instagram this year? Were those necessary career investments too?" I asked. My mother's face hardened. "You have no idea what pressures Trevor faces in his industry. Not everyone can have a straightforward career path like yours." I took a deep breath. "So, what exactly does this family meeting have to do with Trevor's debt?" My parents exchanged glances before my father spoke. "We have a plan to help Trevor consolidate his debt, but we need your assistance." We are asking you to loan him $30,000 to clear the highest interest cards and get his car payments current. The request hung in the air as I struggled to process the audacity of it. $30,000. You cannot be serious. We are very serious, my mother replied. Family helps family. You have always been the responsible one with money. Trevor needs this help to get back on his feet. Trevor finally spoke up. Look, I know it sounds like a lot, but with your salary you would not even miss it. Once I get this management position, I can pay you back quickly. I looked at each of their faces, suddenly seeing with perfect clarity the dynamic that had shaped our family for decades. Have you considered debt consolidation programs? Or maybe Trevor could sell his luxury car and designer wardrobe to pay down some of this debt. Trevor scoffed. I need reliable transportation for work, and I have to maintain a certain image. You could maintain that image without a $70,000 car, I countered. My father leaned forward. Broderick, we are not asking for your financial advice. We have already promised Trevor we would help him with this. That statement stopped me cold. You promised him my money. Before even asking me, my mother had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. We were confident you would want to help your brother. You have always been so careful with money. Surely you have savings set aside. My financial position is not the point, I said. The point is that Trevor needs to take responsibility for his actions. I am happy to help him create a budget and financial plan, but simply giving him money solves nothing. My father's face reddened. Do not lecture us about responsibility. Who do you think paid for your high school activities and put food on the table all those years? You owe this family. I worked for everything I have, I replied, keeping my voice steady, despite my rising anger. I paid my own way through college while working multiple jobs. And who raised you? Who gave you the values that made you successful? My mother jumped in. We sacrificed for years to give you boys opportunities. Trevor stood up, pacing the room. This is such bullshit. You have the means to help, but you are choosing not to. What kind of brother does that make you? I remained seated, forcing calm into my voice. The kind who does not enable destructive behavior. I will help you learn to manage money, but I will not simply hand over $30,000. My father slammed his hand on the armrest of his chair. We knew you would be difficult about this. Your mother checked your accounts. We know you can afford to help. The room went completely still as I processed what he had just said. You checked my accounts. What are you talking about? My mother had the grace to look uncomfortable. I may have borrowed your password when you visited at Christmas. I just wanted to make sure you could afford to help before we asked. A mother worries about these things. The violation hit me like a physical blow. You accessed my bank accounts without my knowledge or permission. Do not be so dramatic. My father waved dismissively. We are family. Family does not commit identity theft against each other. I said, standing up. What you did is illegal. My mother started crying her. Go to tactic whenever confronted. How can you speak to us this way, after all we have done for you? Trevor stepped toward me, his face twisted with entitlement and anger. Just write the damn check, Broderick. You have always been selfish. Some of us were not born perfect like you. Perfect. You think my life just happened. I worked for everything while you were handed opportunities you wasted. And now you expect me to hand over my hard-earned money too. My father stood pointing his finger at me. If you walk out that door without helping your brother, do not bother coming back. I looked at each of them. My entitled brother, my manipulative mother, my enabling father. The people who should have protected me, but instead violated my privacy and attempted to steal from me. I will be changing all my passwords tonight, I said quietly. And if there are any attempts to access my accounts again, I will press charges. I walked out to the sound of my mother's theatrical sobs, and my father's angry shouts, feeling simultaneously heartbroken and strangely liberated. The drive back to Chicago that night was a blur of swirling emotions and racing thoughts. By the time I reached my apartment, a cold determination had replaced my initial shock. My family had not merely asked for money. They had invaded my privacy and attempted to manipulate me into financing my brother's irresponsibility. My first priority was securing my finances. I spent hours that night changing every password across my banking, investment, and email accounts. I enabled two-factor authentication on everything, ensuring that access would require both a password and a code sent to my phone. First thing Monday morning, I called my bank and credit card companies explaining that my accounts may have been compromised. I requested alerts for any unusual activity and placed notes on my accounts prohibiting access to anyone but myself. The bank representative seemed concerned when I mentioned family members had obtained my login information. "Sir, that actually constitutes unauthorized access," she explained gently. "Would you like to file a formal report?" I hesitated, not yet ready to officially accuse my parents of financial crimes. "Not at this time, but please document my concerns." That afternoon, I met with James, an attorney who specialized in financial security and identity theft. I explained the situation, including my mother's admission of accessing my accounts. "Unfortunately, what you are describing happens more often than people realize," James said, reviewing my notes. "Family financial exploitation is among the most underreported crimes because victims feel ashamed or conflicted about pressing charges against relatives. I am not sure I want to press charges," I admitted, "but I need to protect myself. First, we should document everything he advised. Write down your mother's admission verbatim, including when and where she claimed to have accessed your accounts. Second, request your bank's access logs to verify exactly when and how often your accounts were accessed from unfamiliar locations." James also suggested I cease all verbal communication with my family. "Anything you say can be twisted or denied later. Stick to email or text so you have a record of all interactions." The bank security team contacted me 3 days later with disturbing news. My accounts had been accessed from Michigan multiple times over the past 4 months, not just during the Christmas visit my mother had mentioned. The unauthorized access included viewing transaction histories, account balances, and even downloading statements. A week of silence passed before my phone exploded with messages. Trevor sent a series of increasingly hostile texts calling me every name imaginable, while simultaneously demanding my obligation to help him. My mother alternated between guilt trips about family loyalty and tearful pleas about Trevor's deteriorating mental state due to financial stress. My father's messages were brief but threatening, suggesting I would regret my selfishness. I forwarded each message to James without responding. Following his advice, I documented every contact attempt while maintaining a complete communication blackout. 10 days after the disastrous family dinner, a certified letter arrived from my father. The formally worded document demanded my presence at a family financial intervention, with their financial advisors present. The language was clearly not my father's, suggesting they had sought outside help in their campaign to access my money. James drafted a response on legal letterhead, politely but firmly declining the meeting, and requesting that all future communication go through him. We sent it via certified mail, requiring signature confirmation. The response was immediate and dramatic. My parents showed up unannounced at my office building the following Monday afternoon. The receptionist called up, sounding uncomfortable. "Mr. Anderson, there are people in the lobby claiming to be your parents. They are insisting on seeing you immediately and causing quite a scene." I closed my eyes, mortified at the thought of a family confrontation in my professional environment. "Please tell them I am unavailable and ask security to escort them out if necessary. I apologize for the disruption." Later, my colleague Marcus described how my mother had wailed loudly about ungrateful children while my father demanded to know my office number, forcing security to intervene. The incident cemented my resolve to handle this situation firmly and legally. Working with James, I began a thorough investigation into what my family might have learned from accessing my accounts. We discovered search histories on my mother's computer for phrases like adding family members to bank accounts without consent, and can parents access adult children's bank accounts. Even more disturbing, we uncovered the true extent of Trevor's financial problems. Beyond the credit card debt my parents had mentioned, he had accumulated gambling debts at online casinos and taken out multiple payday loans at exorbitant interest rates. His total debt exceeded $60,000, not the $40,000 my parents had claimed. They were not just asking for help, James noted grimly. They were hiding the full extent of the problem, probably planning to come back for more once you gave the initial amount. Armed with this knowledge, I authorized James to send a formal cease and desist letter explicitly prohibiting my family from any attempts to access my financial information. The letter outlined potential legal consequences for any further violations, including criminal charges for unauthorized account access. The letter provoked another escalation. My parents began contacting extended family members, telling a distorted version of events in which I had abandoned the family in their time of need. Several concerned aunts and uncles called, trying to mediate what they had been told was simply a misunderstanding. Meanwhile, my professional reputation faced potential damage when Trevor began leaving negative reviews about our firm online, using various aliases but clearly identifiable through IP addresses. James added this harassment to our documentation. The situation reached its climax when Trevor's girlfriend Heather contacted me directly. Her message marked urgent. Unlike the hostile communications from my family, hers seemed genuinely distressed. Broderick, I am sorry to contact you out of the blue, but I am worried about what is happening. Trevor told me you promised to give him $30,000 for debt repayment, and he has already made financial commitments based on that promise. Now he is talking about desperate measures to get money. I thought you should know. This revelation confirmed my suspicions that Trevor had been counting on my money even before the family meeting. His desperate measures comment concerned me enough to arrange a final confrontation. James and I scheduled a meeting at his office, inviting my parents and Trevor via formal letter. We specified that any discussion of financial matters would only occur with legal representation present for all parties. To my surprise, all three arrived at the appointed time. Trevor looked haggard, my father defiant, and my mother tearful as we sat around the conference table. Thank you for coming, I began formally. I have asked for this meeting to clarify my position once and for all. I placed a folder on the table. This contains documentation of unauthorized access to my financial accounts, occurring 23 separate times over 4 months. It includes evidence that searches were conducted regarding how to gain access to my accounts without my consent. My father started to interrupt, but James held up his hand. Please allow Mr. Anderson to finish. You will have an opportunity to respond. I have no intention of pressing charges at this time. I continued, watching my mother's shoulders sag with relief. However, any further attempts to access my accounts will leave me no choice but to pursue all available legal remedies. I turned to Trevor. I will not be providing $30,000 or any other sum as a gift or loan. What I will offer is this. I slid a business card across the table. This is the contact information for a legitimate financial counselor who specializes in debt management. I have arranged for 6 sessions paid in advance. This is the only financial assistance I am willing to provide. Trevor stared at the card without touching it. So your big solution is to send me to financial kindergarten. I need real help, not lectures. What Trevor needs is his brother's support, not judgment, my father added angrily. I kept my voice even. What Trevor needs is accountability. Giving him money would only continue the cycle that got him into this situation. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. If you refuse to help your brother, you are no longer welcome in this family. Is that what you want Broderick to be alone? The question hung in the air, loaded with decades of manipulation and emotional blackmail. For the first time, I could see it clearly for what it was. I would rather be alone than be exploited by the people who should love me unconditionally, I answered quietly. My father stood abruptly. You will regret this selfishness. Come on, Diana, Trevor. We are done here. As they walked out, I realized they had been expecting me to cave under pressure. Their shocked expressions suggested they had never considered I might actually stand my ground. James patted my shoulder as the door closed behind them. You did the right thing. Boundaries are necessary even with family, especially with family. I nodded, feeling the weight of finality settle over me. I know. It just was not supposed to be this way. The weeks following that final confrontation were some of the loneliest of my life. Despite knowing I had made the right decision, The silence from my family left a void that echoed with questions about identity and belonging. Who was I without the family roles that had defined me for so long? I found unexpected support through a colleague who recognized my withdrawal and invited me to dinner. Over pasta and wine, I reluctantly shared my situation. Marcus listened without judgment, then shared his own experience with family estrangement. "Blood does not entitle people to abuse your boundaries," he said. "Sometimes the family we choose is more important than the family we are born into." Those words became my anchor as I navigated the strange waters of family estrangement. I joined an online support group for adults dealing with family financial exploitation, discovering my situation was sadly common. The stories shared there helped normalize my experience and validate my decisions. 6 weeks after our legal confrontation, I received an unexpected call from my Uncle Paul, my father's older brother. We had always been cordial, but never particularly close. "Broderick, I have been hearing some concerning things from your parents," he began cautiously. "They claim you have abandoned the family over some minor financial disagreement. It does not sound like the nephew I know." I hesitated, unsure how much to share. "The situation is more complicated than they have portrayed it." "I suspected as much," Paul replied. "Your father has always had a selective memory when it comes to family conflicts. Would you be willing to tell me your side?" Over the next hour, I explained everything, including the unauthorized account access and the true extent of Trevor's debt. Paul listened without interruption, occasionally sighing heavily. "This does not surprise me, unfortunately," he finally said. "Your grandfather William saw these patterns in your father from an early age. There is a reason William left his modest savings to you directly rather than to your father as the eldest son." This revelation startled me. I had always believed my grandfather's small inheritance was simply his way of helping with my education. "Your father has always expected others to solve his problems," Paul continued. "He raised Trevor in his image, while you somehow inherited William's sense of responsibility. I am sorry you are experiencing this, but I want you to know that not everyone in the family shares their perspective." Paul's support created a small bridge back to a sense of family, albeit a redefined one. 2 months later, I reconnected with my grandfather's sister, Aunt Margaret, who expressed similar support. Slowly, I built connections with extended family members who respected boundaries and shared healthier values. 3 months after the confrontation, news filtered through family channels that Trevor had moved back into our parents' house, unable to maintain rent payments on his apartment. His luxury car had been repossessed, a development my mother described to Aunt Margaret as a terrible injustice. 6 months in, I received word that Trevor had reluctantly accepted financial counseling, though not with the professional I had recommended. According to Paul, my parents had found someone who took a more understanding approach to young professionals' needs, whatever that meant. The 1-year mark brought an unexpected email from my mother. The message was brief and carefully worded, suggesting she had given serious thought to its content. "Broderick, after much reflection, I acknowledge that accessing your accounts was inappropriate. While I still believe families should support each other, I understand why you felt violated. Your father and I are working with Trevor on developing better financial habits. We miss your presence in our lives. Diana." The email contained no explicit apology, no recognition of the harm done beyond the account access, and no indication that they had truly changed their perspective. Still, it represented the first acknowledgement of wrongdoing, however limited. I crafted a measured response. "Thank you for acknowledging that my financial privacy should have been respected. I hope Trevor is making progress with his financial challenges. I am open to rebuilding communication gradually with clear boundaries in place. Broderick." I established comprehensive security protocols for all my accounts, implementing regular password changes and maintaining strict privacy settings across all platforms. These measures became second nature, a form of self-care rather than paranoia. Finding meaning beyond the family conflict, I began volunteering with a community program, teaching financial literacy to young adults from disadvantaged backgrounds. Sharing practical knowledge about budgeting, saving, and responsible credit use became deeply satisfying, transforming my painful experience into something constructive. 18 months after the confrontation, I received a text from Trevor that surprised me with its tone. I should have handled things differently last year. The financial counseling helped, even though I hated admitting it. Still working through the mess but making progress. Thanks for standing your ground. I needed the wake-up call. This brief message, lacking his usual blame and entitlement, suggested genuine growth. I responded cautiously, offering to meet for coffee next time I was in Michigan. Our eventual meeting was awkward, but civil, marking the beginning of a carefully structured relationship built on new terms. The most profound lesson from this experience was understanding that healthy boundaries are not walls that isolate, but frameworks that allow for authentic connection. By refusing to participate in damaging patterns, I had actually given my family the opportunity to develop healthier dynamics. Whether they fully embraced that opportunity remained their choice, but I had freed myself from the impossible role of enabler and financial safety net. Today, my relationship with my family exists within carefully maintained boundaries. We communicate occasionally, focusing on neutral topics and shared memories rather than financial matters. I maintain vigilant protection of my accounts and personal information, not from paranoia but from a place of self-respect. The journey taught me that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for family is refuse to participate in destructive patterns, even when that refusal is painfully misinterpreted as abandonment. True support means helping people grow, not enabling their worst tendencies. Have you ever had to stand up to family for your own protection? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story helped you feel less alone in setting necessary boundaries, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more stories about navigating challenging family dynamics. Share with someone who might need permission to protect themselves from family exploitation. And remember, sometimes the strongest family bonds are the boundaries we have the courage to create. Thank you for listening, and may you find the strength to stand firm in your own truth, whatever that may be.